All right, here I am in my new office, and we're continuing with the SVG. We're going to look at some things that we can do with style, and we'll see how that works here. So, just a few small things here that I wanted to cover. First off, we have this line cap, and this is how the shapes of the lines are done. So you have round, square, and butt. And I've already got some code set up. There's nothing really new here. We have three lines that demonstrate this. And you can see that the lines go to a point and then they use the horizontal relative move to make lines that are 100 pixels long. And I'll go back and show you this part here in a moment, but basically I started out with three lines where I had the round, square, and butt. I've changed the style on the first line, and I'll cover that here directly. So just to show you what this looks like here are the three lines. And so the first one has the butt, this is the round, and this is the square. Now, I've changed the code a little bit so that the stroke width on the first line is twice as wide as it was. But one thing to notice here is that when you use the round and the square, it slightly extends the line, and the butt just drops the line right at the last pixel that's on the line. So we have butt, round, and square. And the lines are thick enough that you can see the difference in the ends. But what you can't really see is the difference between the butt and the square. And the difference is that all three of these lines are the same length, and you can see that the square is just a trifle longer for the end. Okay? All right. Next thing that I wanted to show you here, let's go back into the Dreamweaver, is we also have a thing called stroke line join, and that can be miter, round, or bevel. And so I took this from the Mozilla Developer Network tutorial, and I just changed it up a little bit. So we've set this up to be a polygon, and we have 3 points. And when you do a polygon, it's going to do the extra join between the last and the first point to make it a closed figure. We've set the fill to none. You can also use fill transparent to do the same effect. The first one is red, blue, and then green. And they all have the same stroke width. And then this controls how the lines meet. So the first one will be miter, then round, then bevel. So let's go back and look at the display. And so here is the miter, then the round, and then the bevel. And so you can see that the bevel, it kind of cuts the sharp point off. And with the round, it rounds the points, and then the miter has the sharpest points. So stylistically, you can change that. Okay? All right, the next thing I wanted to show you was the stroke dash array. So if you don't indicate, the line will just be solid, but you can actually set up a dash type line. And the way this works is you have alternating values. It assumes that the first value is line and that the second is space. And this is pixels. One thing that's a little strange about this is, like, normally when I have a set of values, they're just separated by spaces. But with this, it's an array, and you have to use a comma here. So this says have a line 15 pixels long and then a space 15 pixels long. The next one says a line 15 pixels long and a space 20 pixels long. The next one's a lot more complicated. We have a line of 15, a space of 13, then a line of 20, then a space of 13. Okay? So again, I have these 3 paths, and they're just going to draw lines, and these lines will be lower on the screen. So if we look here, here are the 3 lines. So again, this has got equal space, slightly different space, and then even slightly different spaced lines. So here, this line is longer than this line, etc. Okay? So that's how that works. The next thing that I wanted to show you is how we can use the CSS with the XML SVG markup. And so if you look here, originally I had done these 3 lines the same way, and then I added a class selector here for this first line, and I went ahead and did the style. Now I'll come back and explain this, but just look at this part here. You should recognize that as standard CSS. That's a generic selector. It could be a class selector. In this case, it is. And then you can see that I have the red stroke, the stroke width, and the stroke line cap set to but. And that's all being applied to that very first line, which we can see here in the code is right here. And I've also made the line a little thicker. So you can see that up here it has a stroke width of 20, whereas the other 2 lines have a stroke width of 10. So it's twice as thick. So basically I moved all the style that was originally in this line into this section. And if I wanted to, I could create a class reference for these, and then this style block would apply to all 3 lines. Now let's look carefully at how this is done. Because this is embedded in the XML, it's a definition or defs element, which is part of the SVG. And then within that, we can have other things in defs, and we'll look at that later. We have a style block, and notice the style has type text CSS. And then I wanted you to look carefully at this. This is a requirement to keep you from screwing up the well-formedness of the XML. So you might not remember this, but this is a CData segment. And so this starts with a square bracket and ends with a square bracket. And then within the CData itself, it has a square bracket. So notice the 2 at the end, okay? And then basically within this whole CData section is where I put the style information, and that's standard CSS, okay? All right, now if you want to use an external style sheet here, you can, but you have to use the XML syntax for that. And I don't have that handy, but I think I've got the tutorial open here. Let's take a quick look at that here. Let's see. There it is right there. So here is the standard syntax. Let me go ahead and copy that and put it here just to show you how that works. Whoops. And it'll be easier to read too. So that has to go here, and I guess theoretically you could do both. And I would assume that the cascading thing would basically use the defs to overwrite anything that's in the shared one. Okay? So again, you can see how this works. Now, because we're using the external style sheet to style the page, I think what I would probably do is use a def for the XML and then the style sheet for just the page. But if you have common XML on all of your pages, then obviously that would change. It would make sense to put it all in the external style sheet. So again, this is just a standard XML way to attach a CSS external style sheet to an XML document. In this case, it just happens to be an SVG document. Okay? So obviously, this doesn't work. I don't have this file. I could attach the same file that I have up here, main.css, but there's nothing in it to really make it. I just wanted to show you how that would work. For a standalone file, I'd do it like this. If I was going to have code that was going to be similar, where I had multiple pages that had this, then I'd use the external. Okay? And again, you can see the advantage of this. If I wanted the same styling on these other lines, I could do that. And again, it's all about trying to just minimize the code. You don't want to have a lot of repetitive code. One of the reasons for that, of course, is if you change the style, then you have to go through the document and find every place where you have to change it. And obviously, we don't want to do that. We want to have it in one spot where we can easily change it. Okay, I think that's enough for this video. I need to get into the gradients. I'll do that on the next one.